How does it feel? We just watched A Complete Unknown.
Yeah, if you haven't guessed already.
And this is us coming out of the theater, back at home.
Yeah.
Reacting to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Our initial thoughts.
Usually, like, when we go see movies, we kind of talk it out on the car ride home, but we took 2 different cars today, so we really have no idea what each other are really going to say.
Yeah, so Michelle, take it away.
Me? Oh, okay. Okay, my initial thoughts were I really enjoyed the movie. Because my parents were not super into Bob Dylan, I never really listened to him much until I was older. And there were a lot of songs in the movie where I was like, oh, that's Bob Dylan? I didn't even know. But apparently I really love Bob Dylan music. I didn't know until this movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it was really good. The story, I enjoyed the story. It wasn't like in some of these biopics of these singers, there's like parts of the movie where it's like super dramatic and like the conflict is high, but I never felt like it got to that point. Like there was some drama, but it was never like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next kind of a feeling. But I did think it was interesting, like his journey into like out of folk music and into more like jazz blues music. And I enjoyed Timothy's performance.
Timothée Chalamet, shout out to Timothée. Friend of the pod, Timothée Chalamet, actually.
Friend of the pod.
Yeah, because we have a massive audience, as you all know. And so, as like just out of the top of your head, from 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, what would you rate this film?
I would say it's like an 8.
Yeah.
What about you?
No, I think that's fair. I think I would probably go. I want to say a 7, but I think an 8 is actually really fair. But I'm gonna say 7. So I like the film too, but from an objective standpoint, I think it's okay. And it's a high okay for me, like 7, because that usually would mean like a 5 or a 6, maybe a 4. Like 4 through 6 is kind of like okay for me, but it's a high okay because of the production value. I'm a fan of James Mangold. I'm a fan of Timothée Chalamet. I thought from a persona standpoint, he hit the myth of Bob Dylan. I wasn't a fan of his musical performances though. Like I think the music carried, but him singing individually, like I'm good. And I watched Wonka, and I thought Timothée did a great job as Wonka.
I haven't seen Wonka.
Yeah. Oh, you still haven't seen it?
No.
So good. But this one, I thought he was really reaching to get some of those subtle performances out of Bob Dylan. But mind you, I haven't listened to too much Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
I've heard the "How does it feel?" Like I've heard that chorus, but I couldn't. Is the next line like a Rolling Stone?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I know a little bit.
It's well.
Oh, and the most famous one, the
Blowing in the Wind.
Blowing in the Wind. I've heard that song. But I didn't know it was Bob Dylan. I was like, some old country dude. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah. Okay, so I think what we need to do, well, need is a strong word, but what I would like to do is watch some actual Bob Dylan performances and see how closely it lines up, because like we said, we haven't really heard or seen Bob Dylan much. So I think just comparing it, officially having like an actual like objective perspective. Like we have to watch some live performances and see his mannerisms and like the way that he moved and all that stuff.
But I think you're only saying that to defend Timothée Chalamet's performance because you liked it.
I mean, there's no way for me to judge if it was good or bad.
There's a way to judge. There's a way to judge. Like it didn't sound good in certain spots. I was like, yeah, I could have done that.
But I know that that's like the way Bob Dylan sings.
Yeah. Okay. I will say this early on, and maybe because Timothée was like, if they shot it linearly, like he was getting more comfortable with the character. Mm-hmm. Early on, when it was like the first couple of songs from Bob Dylan, like the first song he did for Woody Guthrie was really well done. Right? It kind of brought you into that immersion. You're waiting for that first song from the main character, right? Mm-hmm. But then some of the stuff where he was just in the clubs, I was like, I think I could have been the next Bob Dylan. Like to me, Bob Dylan's like the Kobe of basketball, meaning like he just constantly worked.
Yeah.
He constantly wrote. He constantly worked. He believed in himself. Like he never once doubted himself. Like what I love about Bob Dylan through the eyes of like the movie is he's not one of those characters or people who's like, I don't really believe in myself. And then he needed someone to be like, you're the best, Bob Dylan. We love you. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm cool.
Yeah.
Like he was just like confident the whole way through. I really respect that because I'm tired of seeing characters who just like the second act comes around, they're like, well, I don't know, Bob. Can I actually do these things? It's like, well, Bob, I think you can. It's like, oh, okay, thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Bob and Bob.
Yeah, so there's Bob Dylan and then Bobby Newsworth. And I've actually heard of Bobby Newsworth. I didn't know anything like any of his work.
I've never heard of him.
Yeah, I've actually heard of him. The connections were cool.
Yeah, you're kind of like whenever a new singer would come in, you're trying to like guess who it is and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was neat. Like I always learn a lot from these movies. Like I also was telling Michelle, like when I watch one of these movies, it makes me think how much I don't know.
Yeah.
Like there's so much history, and a movie doesn't even do it justice because there's so many little details or other major events that were just missed. Mm-hmm. And so this is my main thing against the movie before we get too long in the wind about this is I don't think it actually had anything real to say. I think, like, yes, the music has something real to say. And so if you're going based on the music, which is all throughout the film, then there's a whole lot that's being said. But I don't think there's a phrase I said before in the past, something conflict, overwhelming conflict or something. I don't know if you remember.
I don't remember.
But something like extraordinary conflict or whatever. Like, to me, great movies have this. And that's why I don't think A Complete Unknown is a great movie. And I would be shocked if it gets a Best Picture nomination. Like, when I first saw the trailer, I thought, this is a Best Picture nomination. This is going to be a Best Acting Performance nomination for Timothée Chalamet. Mm-hmm. After seeing the movie, I could see Timothée getting one. But, you know, the brew list is out there. The brew list is out there. And so I don't even think he's going to get a nomination for the Oscars. And definitely this film is not going to get Best Picture. It's just not. Like, it's just not. And I'm not a Timothée Chalamet hater. I love the Chalamet. I love the Timothée. And
but I think
if y'all want to come for me. But
yeah,
this film lacks real conflict. It has very interesting pieces of story, and it ties in cool historical events. And the love triangle is very interesting, but there's no real conflict. The conflict at the end in the third act is contrived at best.
I would say, I mean, I would say it's still a good movie. Not every movie has to be super dramatic and intense. Like, if you want more of a chill feeling as you're watching something, this would be a good movie because it's like, I don't know.
So I'm not saying everything has to be super dramatic and tense. I'm like, a good example of a movie that I do think needs a Best Picture nomination is A Real Pain, which doesn't have like this crazy intense fight, but the conflict and tension between the two characters. Michelle hasn't seen it, so I don't want to spoil it for her. But like, that is the big conflict, right? And even the resolution, someone can come and say like, well, the resolution isn't that big of a deal either. It's not, but you know that there's conflict. it's like everything's pointing towards this conflict and this tension within the characters, and you see it there, right? To me, a Complete Unknown lacks that. I'm not saying it's a bad film. I think it's okay. It's just not a Best Picture nomination for me.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to go and actually see the films, people, before you judge them.
I would agree.
No, you don't have to agree. You can disagree with me.
I mean, I'm thinking about it. Like
the stuff with the archive and the folk traditions and the Newport Festival.
Yeah, I had no clue about any of that stuff.
Which is cool to learn, but I honestly don't know why it was such a big deal in the first place. And they tried to, like, in the last 30 minutes of the film, wrap it all up, be like, Bobby, you gotta, Pete Seeger's character, right, was like, no, let me tell the parable of the
teeter-totter.
No, the teaspoons. The parable of the teaspoons. I was like, oh, they're about to, like, break this down for me. I'm gonna be like, wow. And I was like, at the end, I was like, that was not a bad parable, I'm giving it a 5 out of 10, But it was like, I wasn't like, oh, Bobby, you really need to do this for them. Like, what was he gonna do if he played the right music and made it even? Does that mean world hunger would, like, cease to exist? World peace would happen immediately? Russia and the U.S. would, like, hug it out and bro cry it? Well, like, did we miss out on social justice issues being resolved because Bob Dylan decided not to play his folk music?
I think in what's his face, Edward Norton's character's
Pete
Seeger's mind, that would happen.
And Pete Seeger is a goat, though, low-key.
Yeah, like he really did believe in the message of folk music,
yeah,
and the power of it, and it bringing people together, and it was gaining traction. Like, all that stuff he was saying was true.
But in the end, it doesn't matter. Like Linkin Park said, because Taylor Swift is coming anyways, right? So, like, it doesn't. But she did make a folk album, so maybe the true power of music is in folk music, y'all.
Oh my gosh! But I think like they were comparing him to, like, the Beatles and stuff.
No, you know what? He's better than the Beatles, though.
No, but the genre of music he was getting into was, like, the Beatles music, and
he's better than the Beatles. The Beatles. No, I mean, low key, like he's a better songwriter than any of them. He's a better songwriter than John Lennon. John Lennon didn't receive a Nobel Peace Prize for literature. Bob Dylan did. I learned that because of the movie. They should, like, forgo schooling. Like, the whole thing where, like, ChatGPT is going to get rid of our schooling and education. Just make awesome movies and play those in the school. Anyways, I'm getting off topic.
But what I was saying, well, now I don't even know what I was saying. What was I saying?
You were saying that he was getting into the genre of music of the Beatles.
It's this whole thing of, like, the older generation is, like, in the good old days, we had blah, blah, blah. And then it's like trying to guilt trip the younger generation into doing things the old way instead of
stop doing that, old people.
Emerging into what's new and relevant for people. And so a lot of it was like they just wanted him to stay the same for the rest of his life and do the same old songs and the same old genre. But he was growing as an artist, and he needed to branch out and explore and do new things. And
in the end, like, nobody saved anybody. Like, things have gone a little bit better, but hey, it's 2025, and we don't know what's going to happen to the world. So
yeah, that was that scene where they were like, "Is Russia going to bomb the East Coast and all that stuff?"
I thought that was pretty cool. But in the end, what was Bob Dylan doing? He was like, hey.
He's just playing.
That's why I respect him. He is the Kobe of musical artists. Like, he's just like, oh, war's about to pop off? Let me start playing my guitar. Let me start writing my tunes. Like, if that was Kobe would be like, let me just shoot a basketball. I'm just going to keep practicing.
That's how he...
Because it was like his craft. It was more than just like, I'm an artist. Like, it was his craft. And I really, based on the movie, I don't know him personally, but based on the movie, I really respect Bob Dylan for just working on his craft and just loving making music. Yeah. That was just, I respect that.
Yeah. It made me feel a little lazy.
No, because he's also a neurotic psychopath. So, No.
Psychopath? That's a little strong.
I mean, the way he's getting up in the middle of the night, like, he's like sleeping with a woman, and then he gets a night, starts strumming like guitars and writing down music. Psychopath. Like, just like.
No, I think he's just addicted to.
Psychopath. Like, all the tendencies lead to psychopath.
No.
It's just, okay, the difference is that he has a guitar in his head and not a gun. That's the only difference.
You can't use that term.
I mean,
that
people
implies a lot more.
People use it for Kobe. Kobe as well. Psychopath would wake up in the morning at like 3 a.m. and start playing basketball. It's Mother's Day. He's playing basketball. I mean, like, I mean it's with all the due respect and love toward these people, but a lot of people talk about these high performers or these people who have done great things, and they have been obsessive to the point of destruction towards their life.
That's true.
Right? Like, to be honest, he got good genes, Bob Dylan, because he's smoking cigarettes all the time. Mm-hmm. He's drinking. He's not getting enough sleep. He's not exercising. Mm-hmm. And he didn't have a heart attack when he was like 50 years old. He's still alive and kicking. Like, good genes. But if I live like that, I'm dead at like 40. So, psychopath.
Is that your conclusion for this film?
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. We don't have to end it there. Anyways,
why'd you do that?
Why?
It just felt like an ending.
Oh, okay. I have more thoughts. I do have more thoughts. My final thoughts that I wanted to talk to you about was the love triangle.
Oh, yeah.
That to me was the most dramatic, and had the most conflict in it. Mm-hmm. So Sylvie versus Joan or Jane?
Joan.
Joan?
I feel like Sylvie felt the most emotion out of everybody in the whole film.
Fell Fanning? Elle Fanning? She did a good job. But the way like the shots were, like she looks really short in person.
She
like,
could be. I don't know.
Not like it's not a bad thing. It's just like, oh, she's not as tall as I thought she was. Because like in other movies, I just see her as this like tall, kind of lanky kind of person. Mm-hmm. But in this movie, she's like, oh, okay, like she's normal. The actress who played Joan, I thought did a phenomenal job as well. Obviously, she's the other woman, so she gets a hate. But Bob Dylan was kind of playing them both, so
yeah, he just used them when he needed them.
Yep.
And he discarded them when he didn't need them.
Well, okay, I wouldn't say that. He was just as loyal to them as long as they're around. Which leads you to the conclusion, like, don't leave your man home alone.
She literally, she was only gone for 12 weeks.
12 weeks is a long time.
But she wasn't even gone 12 weeks. Like, she was gone, like, probably 1 week, and then he
started hooking up with Joan.
And then, like...
The thing is, men like that just have to be honest and just be like, this is what I actually am like. And then the women can make a decision.
Yeah.
But we're not, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But the point is they kept it real about Bob Dylan and his affairs. I'm assuming he had even more women in his life than just the 3 that they showed. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming he actually had children. Bob Dylan, hang out with your kids, visit your kids, please. I feel really bad that the kids weren't even mentioned at all. I don't even know if he has kids, but I'm assuming that man has some kids out there, and they're probably feeling really lonely. So Bob Dylan, please visit your kids. No, it just kind of sucks. Like these people have these great lives, and their kids like, Daddy, don't you love me? And he's like, I'm writing music. Shut up, kid.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, I'm just keeping it real, y'all. Like it's just like,
yeah, it's like you shouldn't be allowed to have kids if you're just gonna be that obsessed over
psychopath.
Anyway.
But yeah, PC was awesome. His wife, Toshi, Japanese woman. I thought that was really cool. Like seeing interracial couple back in those times before the Civil Rights Act. I thought that was really cool to see. Mm-hmm. And then she, like she wasn't just like off to the side. She was actually like a part of his life. So that was really cool. The whole Woody Guthrie situation made me really sad, actually, to be honest, because he had a neurological disease. Yeah. I too have a neurological disease, so that really hit me hard. But I really appreciate the fact that his friends would still come around and play tunes for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he's still connected with the world through music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That part where Bob Dylan kind of touched his head, and that moment, it looked like he's saying, "I have replaced you."
What?
That's what it spoke to
I
me.
have replaced you.
He looked in the eyes of Woody Guthrie, held his head compassionately, and just looked at him like, "I have replaced you." And they played that song of like, it's kind of like saying goodbye to you, old friend. And then he drives off in his motorcycle, and then Woody Guthrie's like looking through the window, and I'm like, dang, that's gonna be me.
No.
Ah.
He's like it's almost he's like, I'm too good for you now.
Yeah, that too. That's what I'm saying. Like,
or he's like, I've outgrown you or something.
I have outgrown you.
But all those people, like him and Pete Seeger,
yeah,
like they made him who he was, really, because without them he would not have even gotten on a stage.
How does it feel?
But then like it's weird, like they kind of liberated him in a way because they gave him the ability to play on stage. But then when he got famous, it was like a cage for him, and he was just stuck in this, like, you have to play the same songs over and over.
Well, see, and that tells me, but that's what tells me the point that the movie didn't do a good enough job explaining it, that they had to like literally tell the audience at the end, like, what do you want to be free? Like you won, Bobby. He's like, what did I win? That should be obvious to us, but the character had to say it. You're free from us, right? Which is what you always wanted, or something like that, right? And I was like, yeah, the movie didn't do a good job. That's my point.
Yeah,
that's my point. I'm not saying the film was bad, but when you have to have a character at the very last 3 minutes of film explain what the film is all about, maybe you didn't do a good job writing the film.
Maybe.
The answer, my friend. I'm gonna actually explore more music than those two songs, because
I'm sure he has a lot of good stuff.
He has 55 albums, like the Ellen White of music. Deep cut. You know who we are. Anyways, I just want to touch on that. There's the music business is a very interesting business, but I also want to say, lastly, give props to Bob Dylan for just showing up to the hospital and playing for Woody Guthrie, and then props to Pete Seeger for like giving him a lift. That was really cool, because usually in the music business it's very callous. It's very like, I'm trying to use you. Yeah. There was no like betrayal besides the sexual betrayal. But no like, you try to steal from me, I'm gonna punch you out. Yeah. It was none of that. Oh, and also in the last concert, I was afraid that Toshi was gonna get hit with a stray bottle. Oh. And then get like die or get like brutally disabled, and then Bob Dylan's gonna live with that for the rest of his life. Oh gosh, that's what I thought. Like, because when they focused on her on the camera, I was like, and they're throwing bottles, like, oh no, because I don't know the story of Bob Dylan, so I was waiting for that tragic thing to happen, like the movie Ray and like other movies. Like, there's always that thing that twists around, like the character goes down to the street, and then his loved one goes onto the street and follows them, and then they get hit by the car instead of them, and then they're tragically like living with that guilt for the rest of their life. Like, I thought that moment was coming, but it never came. Yeah. So it actually felt good, because I was literally stressing about it the whole time. So.
Yeah, but it never came. Yeah. Everything is fine.
Well, as far as we know. Again, the 12 children that Bob Dylan fathered into this world that have not been... They're a complete unknown at that point. I don't know what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know does he have kids?
I don't know. I'm just making it up. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.